An impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte may be filed by the end of this month. The Makabayan Bloc says they are in the process of putting the complaint together. They say the Vice President's actions and attempts to block and avoid investigation into her office's anomalous spending constitute a betrayal of public trust.
Loss of confidence at betrayal of public trust dahil doon sa kanyang mga patuloy na hindi pagsagot doon sa mga katanungan kaugnay ng kung paano ginastos yung kanyang confidential funds. At ganun din yung meron ng mga recent data, no? Halimbawa yung about 500 million na di umano ay nandun sa duffel bag at winidraw, no? So itong mga ganito sa totoo lang ay malinaw na katiwalian. Kasi hindi ganito yung kinakailangan na proseso, no? Doon sa paggastos ng pera. Ano man yan, no? Confidential, intelligence fund, o kung anumang pondo ng gobyerno, hindi ganyan ang dapat na ginagawa.
Kung ako nga nagdemanda kay Mr. Duterte sa ginawa niyang pagbabanta sa akin, ito nga, sukdulan nga yung ginawa nitong si Vice President Sara Duterte.
Meanwhile, House Committee on Good Government Chair Joel Chua said they're actually seeing many impeachable offenses against Vice President Duterte.
Marami na po tayo nakikita ng ground betrayal of public trust, aggravated corruption, and so forth and so on. But with respect to the impeachment, if it will be filed by the House of Representatives, wala pa naman po kami na pag-usapan tungkol doon. Kasi tayo, ito ginagawa pa lang natin yung ating trabaho dito sa committee. So, pag nag-conclude na, that's the time na pag-uusapan namin mga miyembro kung ano magiging laman o content ng aming committee report.
One thing is for sure though, according to the lawmakers, libel and disbarment complaints can now be filed against the Vice President.
Itong pagmumura, marami ng mga abogado ang nadisiplina ng Supreme Court o ng IBP Board of Governors dahil sa intemperate language o kaya yung foul language. So, these are the possibilities kung may magko-complain laban sa kanya for unethical conduct in a disbarment case or the Supreme Court, motu proprio by itself, can take on and investigate o kaya yung Integrated Bar of the Philippines Board of Governors can also look into it. Yung pangongontrata ng para patayin ang ibang tao. That by itself is really not respect for the law or respect for legal processes. Kung agrabyado ka, pwede ka namang dumulog sa korte, di ba? Pwede ka namang mag-file ng complaint or take precautionary measures. But hindi yung mangongontrata ka para pumatay ng, that by itself kasi, ibig sabihin, you're using violence, not the processes of law.
So much to unpack from all the recent developments. Let's get some legal insights from our guest, constitutionalist and law lecturer, Attorney Michael Yusinko. Attorney Yusinko is a senior research fellow at the Ateneo Policy Center of the Ateneo School of Government. Welcome to The Big Story, Attorney.
Good evening to Gretchen, Sean, and Pauline, and good evening to all your viewers and listeners tonight.
Okay, I think you heard that previous report that was just airing right now. I also heard your interview earlier today, and I know that you want to see accountability over impeachment. Talk us through that.
Yeah. First, let's analyze what impeachment is. So impeachment is basically a political process. It's a partisan and divisive process that will result to the removal of the public officer or official in question, and also, if convicted, will suffer permanent disqualification to hold any other public office. But there is no criminal liability or administrative liability attached to the conviction by impeachment. In other words, all of what we're talking about now about the possibility of misuse of public funds, possibility of plunder of public funds, won't have any effect at all as far as attaching liability for it in an impeachment process. Now, knowing the fact that the vice president is not immune from any suit, then wouldn't it be more optimal to just file a plunder case now instead of filing an impeachment case first, right?
Yeah, but like you said, it is a political move, very political move. This is also what the vice president calls the series of hearings in the House, both in the Committee of Good Government and the Quadcom, right? So maybe if the goal is to, for example, sasabihin mo, the midterms are coming, you want to end or kill the Duterte brand so that they cannot further run for office, would impeachment achieve that goal?
Well, for if she gets convicted, yes, and that's only true for her, no, for Vice President Sara. But the brand itself can persist through other through other Dutertes, of course. But as you mentioned earlier, my concern is accountability for the possible plunder that's that has been committed here. And therefore, I think that should be the priority rather than the political aspects of this situation, right? Because we're talking about 125 million taxpayers' money not being accounted for, no? Possibly lost for good. So I think our primary concern should be to get accountability and to get those persons responsible for the loss of that huge amount of money from our coffers, from the national coffers, get their due day in court and be meted the appropriate penalty.
Who can file the case in court? Can it be any citizen, given that this is a very public trust?
So that's a great question, Sean. And right now, the ombudsman should be getting into this action now, no? Because it is the ombudsman who has responsibility for these kinds of problems, no? For these kinds of issues. So it's not the lawmakers who are responsible for this; it's the ombudsman. And therefore, the ombudsman should take cognizance of this matter now, take jurisdiction of this issue now, and then conduct the proper investigation, and then file the appropriate indictment in the Sandigan Bayan.
Attorney, I want to go to the death threat issued by the Vice President to the President. What charges are you seeing that she could face here? And how do you determine reasonable grounds? And we were talking to the NBI a while ago. There's a subpoena for the Vice President. They're giving her 5 days to explain herself. But I imagine she's not going to say anything other than her words were maliciously taken out of context. At joke lang ito, hindi naman seryoso. Pero paano nga ba? I mean, how do you imagine that case to go? And what charges could she be facing?
That's also a great question, Gretchen, and brings me back to my litigation days. No? So just from what we saw over the weekend, no? that video that was posted online, I think that by itself, barring any proof that it's fake, no? That in itself would constitute probable cause. No? Because it's very clear, no? All of the elements of a crime were present there. So, for at least from my perspective as a former litigator, I would look at the video itself as possible evidence to support probable cause. Of course, I have to defer to our prosecutors, the DOJ, because they are more more they know more about criminal law than I do. So that's just my evaluation. The video itself, I would say, would constitute probable cause.
But a while ago, we were mentioning this case of a 25-year-old teacher back in 2020 who made a death threat or sinabi niya na kung sino makapatay kay President Duterte noon, bibigyan niya ng 50 million peso reward. Na sinabi naman niya ay hindi naman yun ang intention niya at nagsorry pa siya kay President Duterte. But then, back then, I remember, the prosecutors were saying that freedom of speech and expression are not absolute. And there was clear and present danger. Could the same thing apply here?
Oh, yes, yes. That's why the NBI is correct to conduct an investigation, no? Because the threat against the president can constitute as a clear and present danger, and therefore it doesn't enjoy any protection, free speech protection. Now, the difference with the teacher, the case of the teacher, the NBI made a mistake there, no? Because they did not offer any due process to that teacher. That's why the case was dismissed, no? They presumed that it was an ongoing crime, and therefore it justified a warrantless arrest. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's not the case. No, you have to follow due process and allow that person to defend himself and provide an explanation why he said those things that he said. So it's a case of the NBI learning from its own mistake, and now they're following the right process and giving the vice president the chance to explain herself. But yes, you're correct. The threat that was expressed and over the weekend, that would constitute a clear and present danger, and therefore it is not protected by free speech.
Okay, Attorney, let's talk about the video response of President Bongbong Marcos to that death threat. This is PBBM's strongest statement yet on any issue since taking power, no? Calling the threat of his life, criminal, and sinabi niya, papalag daw siya. What do you make of the statement of the President, his choice of words now being more straightforward? What do you make of his words?
Well, Pauline, I think I just want to comment on the content, no, rather than the timing or the style. So, on one hand, the president is correct to say that the threat that was issued against him and his family is a serious matter and can be considered a national security matter in itself. No? So, he is on point there. But it's just incredible to me that he would also raise the point that they are respecting separation of powers here, no? Because from what I see, the president and Congress are working together here, no? And they are not respecting the separation of powers.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you, Attorney Yusinko, because sa napapansin ninyo, no, in the conduct of these hearings, matagal na rin, ilang buwan na rin, marami ka bang nakikitang mga, kumbaga, unconstitutional things na nangyayari? And what are the most glaring ones that you see?
So first, let's just to continue my thought earlier. No? So the first one is the politicization of executive agencies, no? Agencies within the executive branch, in particular the PNP and the Bureau of Corrections, no? Because the House of Representatives are getting these agencies and offices within the executive branch involved in their own work, no? So that to me means that the executive branch is allowing itself, or at least allowing its agencies, to be politicized by the House of Representatives. No?
Okay.
So that to me shows that there is a lack of respect on the part of the president and the leadership of Congress of the principle of separation of powers. No? Now, another unconstitutional or unconstitutionality that I'm seeing is in all of these hearings, in all of these inquiries, the in aid of legislation part is being ignored. No? The hearings being conducted by the Senate and by the House of Representatives, which are purported to be in aid of legislation, but the legislative purpose, the legislative objective is not being explained clearly and with conviction.
Attorney, hindi ba bukod sa in aid of legislation, ang purpose din ng Kongreso ay meron silang power over the purse, meaning oversight over the purse, how the money is used, and sinasabi nga nila that this will aid craft legislation on confidential funds to be able to guide the use and checks and balances over that.
Yeah, but let's tackle that. First of all, let me explain the oversight function. The oversight function pertains to how the laws that they passed are being implemented, right? So when a hearing is conducted with the purpose of oversight, then it has to be made clear what is the law that is being reviewed or how the law is being implemented. Right? So, kailangan sa simulat sa pool, lawmakers should explain to the public what laws are they exercising their oversight functions over. Right? What are the laws they intend to look into and determine whether the implementation is as they intended it to be.
That's exactly what the Vice President said in her very long letter to the House, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. No? Okay. Now, in this particular case of the confidential funds, right? If the intent is to determine how confidential funds are to be used, right? How confidential funds are to be audited, and how confidential funds are to be protected from, misappropriation and misuse, then wouldn't the most reliable resource persons be the COA? Because they would know, right? They would know how to answer those questions.
Attorney, mayroon na akong konting pahabol lang. In 30 seconds, can you tell us if the transfer to the Correctional Institute for Women is constitutional of Attorney Zuleika Lopez?
I think it's not. No, I think it's highly irregular because the Bucor, the BJMP, their authority is to take custody of prisoners, convicted prisoners.
Okay.
So if you bring a resource person there, that's essentially bringing in a civilian, which they are not authorized to handle.
Okay. Very quickly, super singit lang and very, very quickly lang to. Yes or no question lang, Attorney. Kunwari, congressman din ako, pero hindi, biro lang yun. Yung original 125 million na confidential funds na natanggap ni Sara Duterte noong 2022, noong December, na yun ang pinag-aawayan nila ngayon. Constitutional ba ang pag-transfer nun mula sa OP to the OVP? Kahit pa ni-request ng OVP yon sa OP?
On the surface, it's not, no? In fact, I would say allotting confidential funds to civilian offices, I think it's unlawful, I think it's unconstitutional. So the allocation of confidential funds itself to the OVP and DepEd, I would argue, is unconstitutional and unlawful.